They didn't whisper when they did it. They smiled. They measured my silence and called it weakness. They took the knife with clean hands and hid it behind a hug. I felt the push, not steel. Intention, quiet, precise, familiar. The kind of pain that knows your name. Everything inside me hit the floor, like shattered glass. Edges everywhere, glittering with shame. Every step cut deeper. Every breath tasted like smoke from bridges. I didn't even know they'd burned. My trust bled out in seconds. I could count with my teeth clenched. I learned the weight of a name when no one says it. I learned the cold of a room that was crowded yesterday and empty. Laughter travels fast when it isn't yours. Their jokes wore my face like a trophy. I was the story at the table I could no longer sit at. I was the punchline they practiced. They said I was dramatic. They said I wanted too much. I stood in the wreckage of what I thought was love, and I counted the lies like ribs. 1, 2, too many to protect the heart left beating behind them. My chest was a locked room, and the key was in their pocket. I banged on the door until my hands learned to bleed without permission. They thought it ended me. They thought it buried me. They thought the dirt would keep me quiet. They thought the weight would teach me obedience. They stacked their doubts like stones and called it a headstone. They wrote a date I hadn't agreed to. Look at me. Look at the mess. Look at the glass in my palms, the ash in my lungs, the wound that will not close because it refuses to forget. This is where they expect you to fold. This is where they expect me to fade. I didn't leave. I listened to the hiss of my own breath, to the slow drip of faith, returning like rain through a ceiling that swore it was finished with weather. I tasted iron. I named it truth. Not sweet, not gentle, honest, heavy enough to steady a shaking mouth. Mockery is a weak god. It only lives if you kneel. I stayed standing, crooked as a broken sword, hot as the forge that made it. I let their words pass through me, like wind through a cracked window, sound without shelter. They lit the match and left me with the smoke. I learned to see through it. I learned to breathe inside it. I learned that darkness is not empty. It is crowded with lessons. No daylight will teach you. They thought it ended me. They thought it buried me. They thought ashes mean finished. They don't. Ashes mean the fire was real. They mean the heat met something that mattered. My bridges burned because I crossed them. My wounds bled because I was alive enough to be hurt. Listen, I was torn apart, left in ashes, written off by hands that shook with casual cruelty. But even ruins remember the shape of the cathedral. Even broken glass remembers how to shine. I will carry the cuts like constellations. I will name every scar so it can't name me first. They thought it ended me. They thought it buried me. Let them keep thinking. The ground is not a grave when it still trembles with the sound of a heartbeat. Alone, forgotten, erased. That was the anthem they left me with. Not a song of triumph, not a hymn of hope, just silence, heavy, suffocating, unforgiving. Do you know what silence does to a soul? It carves. It digs trenches in your mind, where echoes live forever. It takes every word you wish someone had spoken, every hand you wish had reached for you, and turns them into ghosts that whisper in the dark. They thought exile was a punishment, but exile became my crucible. I sat in that emptiness, nights without voices, days without recognition. I walked through crowds, invisible, not hated, not loved, worse ignored. The world forgot my name, and for a time I almost forgot it too. Alone, forgotten, erased. But silence is not absence. Silence is a teacher, and I listened. It taught me who I was without applause, without validation, without their false smiles. It taught me the weight of my own breath, the rhythm of my own heart, the truth of my own shadow. Darkness wrapped itself around me, not as a curse but as a cloak. It hid me. It held me. It whispered, "They left you, but I remain." I watched them from the shadows. I saw their laughter ripple through the air like poisoned wine. I saw their smirks sharpen into daggers. They celebrated my ruin as though it was their feast, but every laugh was shallow, every cheer brittle. Do you know what happens when you stare long enough at the ones who betrayed you? You stop seeing gods. You stop seeing giants. You see cracks, small, ugly cracks hiding behind painted masks. You see their fear disguised as pride. You see their emptiness dressed as power. And in my silence, I smiled, because I understood. They hadn't erased me. They had erased themselves from my future. Alone. Forgotten. Erased. I traced the scars on my skin, like maps. Maps that led me through the labyrinth of pain. Every mark, every cut, every wound. They pointed somewhere, to strength, to clarity, to vengeance. My body became a scripture they could never read, a language only I could understand. They thought my exile was the end, but exile is a womb, and in that darkness something grows, something sharp, something inevitable. They silenced me. Yes, but silence turned into focus. They abandoned me. Yes, but abandoned me became freedom. They misunderstood me. Yes, but being misunderstood me, I no longer had to explain myself. Alone, forgotten, erased. Those words once cut me open. Now they are my armor. Now they are the pillars of the empire I build in secret. Because when the world erases you, you are free to write yourself again. When they forget you, you are free to remember who you truly are. When they leave you alone, you are free to sharpen your rage without interruption. I was the shadow they didn't notice. I was the silence they ignored. I was the ghost they thought had vanished. But silence remembers. Darkness protects, and scars guide. Alone, forgotten, erased. That was my curse. Now it is my weapon. And soon, it will be their undoing. The tears stopped, not because the pain vanished, not because the wounds healed, but because I decided they would no longer have the privilege of my sorrow. Grief had carved its trenches deep into me, rivers of salt running through hollow ground. But one night, I looked into the mirror of silence, and I saw something, not weakness, not defeat, something sharper, something waiting. The tears dried, and in their place, rage. But not the rage they wanted. Not the wildfire that burns and dies, leaving nothing but smoke. No. This was a controlled blaze, a storm gathering in silence, a thunderhead swelling in the distance, unseen, unheard, but inevitable. They thought my anger would consume me. They thought it would eat me alive. But anger is not a curse when you learn to chain it. Anger is not destruction when you make it serve you. Rage is not weakness. Rage is fuel. And I became the furnace. Listen. Every insult they threw at me, I melted it down. Every betrayal they carved into my back, I hammered it into steel. Every night I was left alone to rot, I sharpened myself against the edge of it. I was broken. I rebuilt. I rose. Do you hear me? I was broken. I rebuilt. I rose. Like a phoenix clawing out of its own ashes. I burned and I bled until the fire itself bowed to me. I was not destroyed. I was reforged. Like a shattered sword drawn from the fire, I came back harder, sharper, unbreakable. The world did not lift me. So I learned to lift myself. The world did not open its doors. So I carved my own entrance. The world did not crown me. So I forged my own crown. If the world once set lift me, I will rise alone. Alone is not empty. Alone is not weakness. Alone is freedom. Alone is power. Alone is the moment before the storm breaks. I gathered myself in the silence, piece by jagged piece. I stitched my wounds with defiance. I sealed my scars with fire. And where they thought they had buried me, I was building. I was broken. I rebuilt. I rose. Do you understand what that means? It means they no longer own my pain. It means they no longer write my ending. It means their betrayal was not my grave, but my beginning. They thought I would crawl. I chose to stand. They thought I would beg. I chose to fight. They thought I would fade. I chose to rise. This is the spark, the moment where the ashes shift, where the silence rumbles, where the storm begins to breathe. I was broken. I rebuilt. I rose. And now the world will learn what it means to create an enemy from the one who had nothing left to lose. They thought I would stay shattered. They thought the broken pieces of me would scatter, too sharp to hold, too fragile to rebuild. But I gathered them, one by one, with bloodied hands and teeth gritted against the sting. I claimed every fragment they left behind. And in the darkness, I forged myself anew. I became the blacksmith and the steel. I became the hammer and the blade. Every strike of pain against me was a strike against the anvil. Every betrayal was fire beneath the metal. Every scar, another layer of armor. Each scar a shield. Each wound a weapon. I trained where no one could see me. In silence, in shadows, in exile. My body a battlefield. My mind a fortress. I let the night strip me of weakness, tear me down to the raw frame, until only iron remained. They had taken everything. That was their mistake. For when you are left with nothing, you can build without fear of loss. When the world has burned you to ash, you are free to decide what rises from the smoke. Each scar a shield, each wound a weapon. As I sharpened myself like stone, grinding against stone, I fed on the thunder of my rage, letting the storm inside me grow. The more they mocked, the more it roared. The more they doubted, the more it struck. And with every strike, I hardened. With every strike, I became something else. Do you know what happens when steel meets fire? It bends. It screams. But it does not surrender. It learns to endure the heat until it no longer fears the flames. And when it cools, it is stronger than anything that tried to destroy it. That is what I became. Not the victim they left behind. Not the outcast they buried. I became the weapon they could never wield. The storm they could never command. Each scar a shield. Each wound a weapon. I built my empire from what they discarded. Their betrayal became the foundation. Their envy became the walls. Their silence became the roof. I laid every brick with defiance. I carved every stone with vengeance. And I stood within it, unshaken, untouchable. This empire was not built on kindness, not on mercy. It was built on fire, on scars, on shadows. And those who lit the flames, they became the architects of their own downfall. Each scar a shield, each wound a weapon. Look at yourself. Look at the scars you hide. Do you see weakness? Or do you see proof? Proof that you survived. Proof that you endured. Proof that every attempt to break you only reforged you into something sharper, harder, deadlier. They do not understand. They never will. They thought betrayal was an end. But betrayal is heat. Betrayal is the fire that burns away the flesh of weakness, leaving only the bones of power behind. I walked through their flames, and I did not beg for mercy. I let the fire swallow me. I let it devour everything I was, and when it was done, I stepped out, not as ash, not as ruin, but as the storm. Each scar a shield, each wound a weapon. They made me suffer, they made me bleed, they made me burn. But they forgot. Fire does not only destroy, fire forges. And now, forged in fire, I am unbreakable. I am the weapon their own hands created. And I will be the storm they cannot survive. The silence is over. For too long, I let the quiet cradle me, break me, rebuild me. For too long, I let them believe I had vanished. But silence was never surrender. It was preparation. Now, the storm speaks. Do you hear it? The rumble in the distance, the trembling in the ground. That is me. That is the voice they tried to bury. That is the fury they tried to extinguish. They mistook my stillness for death. They mistook my patience for defeat. But storms are always silent before they strike. I am no longer whispers in the dark. I am thunder that splits the sky. I am lightning that does not ask for permission. I am the storm they summoned, and now I rise to swallow them whole. I am the storm. I am the fire. I am the empire. They wanted me chained. They wanted me crawling, but chains rust in rain. Shackles shatter under thunder. And the ones who laughed at my fall, their voices are drowned now in the roar of my rise. Their mockery has no place beneath the weight of the tempest I have become. They stand before me, trembling, not because I touched them, not because I raised my hand, but because they know, deep down, they know. They created me. They fed me the ashes. They handed me the flames. And now, I am the storm they cannot survive. I am the storm. I am the fire. I am the empire. Every betrayal was a spark. Every lie, a drop of rain. Every wound, a gust of wind. They thought they were breaking me, but they were building the hurricane that now bears down upon them. A tidal wave born from their cruelty. A thunderclap forged from their laughter. Do you feel it? That weight pressing on your chest? That fear you cannot name? That is me. That is the shadow stretching across your sky. That is the storm you thought would never come. I am not the outcast anymore. I am not the forgotten ghost in the corner of your memory. I am the reckoning. I am the rower. I am the reminder that silence is never death. It is the breath before the scream that shakes the heavens. I am the storm. I am the fire. I am the empire. You thought my downfall was your triumph. You thought your laughter would echo forever. But thunder answers laughter with silence, then with a roar that drowns the world. And here I stand, the thunder in human form, the lightning wrapped in flesh. I do not ask. I do not wait. I do not beg. I strike. Every step I take cracks the earth. Every word I speak rattles the walls you built to contain me. Every breath I draw is a promise that your time has ended. I am the storm. I am the fire. I am the empire. Look at me now. Look at the one you left for dead. Look at the ghost you buried, the exile you mocked, the name you erased. I have returned, not in silence, not in sorrow, but in fury, and you cannot stop me. Your power was built on sand. My power is built on sand. Your empire was built on sand. Mine is built on sand. You needed the world to believe in you. I needed nothing but the fire in my chest and the storm in my veins. I am the storm. I am the fire. I am the empire. And when I rise, I do not rise for revenge. I do not rise for forgiveness. I rise because I was always meant to. I rise because storms are not born to be contained. I rise because you tried to bury me, and the ground itself rejected your hands. Now, when the sky splits open, and the thunder shakes the bones of the earth, remember this: you made me. Every drop of rain, every flicker of lightning, every scream in the wind, it is your gift, your creation, your curse. I am the storm. I am the fire. I am the empire. And storms do not whisper. They roar. They strike. They destroy. And I will not stop until the world kneels in the silence my thunder leaves behind. Look at them now. The same faces that once laughed at my fall. The same mouths that spat my name like poison. Now their lips twitch into brittle smiles, forced and hollow, masks that cannot hide the tremor beneath their skin. Their hands shake. Their eyes avoid mine. They look down, not out of respect, but because they cannot bear the reflection they see in me. I am everything they said I would never become. I am the proof that their words were lies. Their downfall did not come with swords. It did not come with blood. No blade touched their skin. No fire burned their homes. Their punishment was simpler, deadlier. It was to stand there, helpless, and watch me rise. My success is their punishment. My empire is their prison. My name is their chains. Do you see it? Their pride cracking like glass underfoot, splintering with every echo of my name. They choke on their envy. Each gasp another reminder that the air belongs to me now. They built a gallows for me, but they hung themselves on it instead. Let them beg. Let them crawl. Let them choke on regret. They thought betrayal would kill me. Instead, betrayal carved my throne. Every lie they told became stone. Every whisper against me became mortar. Every scar became a pillar. And now I sit upon a seat they unknowingly built with their own hands. They wanted me forgotten, but now every corner of their lives echoes with me. They cannot open their eyes without seeing what I've become. They cannot close them without dreaming of what they lost. Their regret is not a moment. It is a lifetime. Let them beg. Let them crawl. Let them choke on regret. Do you know the sweetest revenge? It is not their silence. It is their applause. The applause they force through clenched teeth, choking on their own shame, pretending to celebrate the very victory they prayed would never be mine. They clap because the world demands it. They cheer because my name has become undeniable. And every sound of their false praise cuts them deeper than any blade I could have raised. They are prisoners of my greatness. Every headline is another chain around their necks. Every triumph of mine is a stone on their chest. Every time the world bows to me, their knees buckle a little more beneath the weight of regret. Let them beg. Let them crawl. Let them choke on regret. I will not strike them down. Death would be mercy. To end their suffering would be kindness. And I owe them nothing. No kindness, no mercy, no relief. Their punishment is not to die. Their punishment is to live in the shadow of what I have become, to live with the knowledge that they could not break me, and worse, they made me stronger. Their envy is the chain they cannot escape. Their regret is the storm they cannot outrun. Their pride is the glass they walk upon, bleeding with every step, remembering who shattered it. And me, I will not forget. I will not forget. I will not release them from the prison they built with their own hands. Let them beg. Let them crawl. Let them choke on regret. Because every scar they gave me is now a jewel in my crown. Every betrayal they carved is now gold in my throne. They forged their own humiliation when they tried to forge my grave. And now as they stand before me, trembling, hollow, broken by the sight of my power, I lean back upon the throne their betrayal built, and I smile. My success is their punishment. My throne is their regret. My very existence, their eternal defeat. They called me a shadow, a ghost, a nothing. And for a time, I believed them. For a time, I let their words define me, let their betrayal shape me into silence. But silence is not weakness. Silence is not surrender. Silence is the womb of power. Silence is where storms are born. And in that silence, I found myself. Not the self they wanted. Not the self they could control. But the self they feared might awaken. I embraced what they despised. I embraced what they mocked. I embraced the villain. They tried to paint me as, and I wore it proudly, like armor, like fire, like a second skin that cannot be pierced. I am no longer chasing their acceptance. I am no longer begging for their mercy. I am no longer kneeling to their fragile crowns, because I have forged my own. My crown is not made of gold. It is not delicate. It is not jeweled with their approval. My crown is forged from betrayal itself, from the knives they drove into my back, melted down in the fires of my rage, hammered into iron by the blows they thought would break me. And my throne is not carved from marble. It is carved from scars. Each wound another stone, each scar another pillar. I do not sit on their legacy. I sit on mine, a throne they cannot touch, because it is built from the very pain they gave me. I was the silence they ignored. I am the empire they now serve. Do you understand? I did not rise despite the shadows. I rose because of them. The darkness they condemned me to became the light that guides me. My empire is not lit by the sun. It is lit by shadows. Shadows that stretch across the world, reminding every soul who cast me aside that I am still here, that I am unshaken, that I am untouchable. They wanted a victim. They created a god. They wanted an exile. They created an emperor. They wanted silence. They created a storm. Let them hate. Let them fear. Let them fall. I do not crave their forgiveness. I do not seek their love. I do not hunger for their pity. Those are chains, and I do not wear chains anymore. I wear the storm. I wear the fire. I wear the crown of shadows. They tried to bury me under. They will tell stories about me, not of kindness, not of mercy, but of inevitability. They will speak of the day the ghost they buried rose and ruled the living. They will whisper of the empire that grew from scars, of the storm that crowned itself in fire, of the silence that became a roar across the earth. Let them hate. Let them fear. Let them fall. I am not a king of their making. I am not a ruler of their design. I am something older, something darker, something forged in betrayal, tempered in rage, crowned in shadows. I was the silence they ignored. I am the empire they now serve. And when they bow, they will not bow to forgiveness. They will not bow to mercy. They will bow to power. They will bow to shadows. They will bow to the storm they summoned, but could not survive. Let them hate. Let them fear. Let them fall. For I am no longer the broken, no longer the forgotten, no longer the erased. I am the crown of shadows. I am the storm in flesh. I am the empire eternal. It was never just about betrayal. Not anymore. Betrayal was the spark. Betrayal was the wound. Betrayal was the fire that tried to consume me. But fire dies. Ash fades. Betrayal alone cannot sustain a soul forever. I learned that revenge is temporary. It satisfies the hunger, but only for a moment. And I was not born for moments. I was born for eternity. I do not rise only to spite them. I do not rule only to watch them crawl. That was the beginning. but not the end. This became something greater, something untouchable, something eternal. From nothing to everything. The scars they gave me, they are no longer wounds. They are monuments. They are carved into me like scripture. Proof that I endured what should have ended me. Proof that I am not a story that fades, but a legacy that lingers. The silence they cast me into, it is no longer emptiness. It is eternity. The echo of my voice will outlive their laughter. The storm I have become will outlast their fragile crowns. Long after their names are dust, mine will thunder across the ages. From nothing to everything. I was not built by love. I was not carried by mercy. I was not crowned by kindness. I was forged by betrayal, sculpted by exile, crowned by shadows, and that is why I will never fall. Because what is born from fire does not burn. What is raised in silence does not tremble. What is carved from scars does not break. From nothing to everything. I was the ghost they buried, the silence they ignored, the shadow they dismissed. But ghosts do not die. Shadows do not fade. Silence does not disappear. They grow. They spread. They endure. And now I am more than revenge. I am more than rage. I am more than scars. I am legacy. I am empire. I am eternity. From nothing to everything. And when they kneel, when they bow not out of choice, but out of inevitability, they will know the truth they tried to bury. They will see the ghost they mocked. They will hear the storm they unleashed. They will face the empire they created. I was the ghost they buried. Now I am the storm they bow to.